Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Michael from Mickey Lens Media, and today we will be looking at how to edit this image from start to finish. First, we'll be editing this image from Capture One, and then we're moving to Photoshop for further editing and exporting of this image, right? So first, let's start. Okay, so but once I'm in Capture One, the first thing I like to do is just make sure my exposure warning here is checked on, just so that Photoshop tells me whenever I'm picking up, yeah, and I'm losing details, right? So you see all this red stuff is like telling you that, oh yeah, you're beginning to peak, and then we don't need that, right? So that's why that is being checked on, right? So let's move on to where I like to start from. Usually I like to start from my level adjustment. I like to pull in my blacks just so we add a little bit of contrast to the image, right? And then I'll pull in my whites, right? I am trying so hard not to do so much, and that's what I typically do each time I'm retouching. So let's increase the haze a little bit more. You see, we'll keep it at 610 is fine, and then clarity too, just move it up a bit. Yeah, you see, yeah, this is sharp enough for me, right? So I like to come to our dynamic range here, the high dynamic range. I like to pull in my blacks just so the black are really dark, and pull up my shadow to compensate for that a little bit, right? So do I really need that? Alright, so let's just take it up a bit. Alright, so what else? My exposure. Alright, my exposure, I try as much as I can to get it right from the camera, and for when I can't or when it's hard, I can just tweak it a little bit from here. But I think this is fair enough. I think it's fair enough. I mean, we still have Photoshop to go work on this image, so we can balance it up from there. So another thing I like to do is I like to come to the color wheel here, and then when you come to the color wheel, let's look at the color editor. And then for the color editor, let's say, okay, so let's work on our skin tone right here. So for the skin tone, I like to come to the color picker here and then pick a skin tone. Right now we can see that it's picking a lot more, and what we can do is we can come to our view selected color range and then check it on, so every other thing becomes black and white but the part that is being selected. Right now, what we can further do is we can take this up a little bit to further balance the selection, right? And then move away from the greens a little bit, just so we are working on strictly the colors. Now this color that is colorful is where our edit is going to affect, right? So let's come to our uniformity here and then pull it up a little bit, not too much, because we don't want the image to be flat and then the contoured part and the highlighted part all now feels the same, right? We don't want that. We don't want that hue. We just want a little bit, and I think I'll make it a little bit lighter, right? So that's that really. So I like to leave it that. Let's turn off the view selected color range, right, so we can see the entire image and see how and what it looks. So now we're in Photoshop, and here in Photoshop we will be treating the skin. Let's zoom in a little bit. So we'll be treating the skin from removing blemishes, frequency separation, dodge and burn, and color grading of this particular image right here. So let's zoom in to this image a little bit and create an empty layer right here. So for this, we'll be using our spot healing brush tool. Alright, so all you need to do is just click on it, click on the pimple you're trying to remove. So for the most part, this model actually have a great skin, so we will not be doing too much with this. So basically we're just going to dive in with our frequency separation action, right? All right, so let's hit Ctrl Shift E to merge this. So right now we will go in with our frequency separation action, and for the radius I'll be picking a radius of say 10. I think 10 is a very good spot because that's a place where we don't have what's it called, the textures, and all we are left with is just the colors and the tonal range, or tonal variation rather, of this image. So I'll hit OK. Now I'll zoom in to this image a little bit. I don't want to go in too close, right? So our frequency separation is right here, so we'll be working on our low layer copy. For this we'll be using our mixer brush tool, right? So we'll keep our wet at 20, our load at 20, our mix at 40, and flow at 25, and our smoothing will be at 5%. And we keep this checkbox always on, just so Photoshop cleans the brush after every stroke. With our left and right bracket keys, we can increase or decrease our brush size, right? So all right, so what we want to do here is we want to select the brush size for every part that we will be working on, right? So let's say we are working on a bigger area. We are going to be using a brush size that is equal to the area, so we don't mess the colors around. And basically what we want here is to have the shadow, the transition between the highlight and the highlight and the shadow, right? So we want that soft fall off, really, so we don't have sharp edges or places where we have different color variation, right? So we're trying to blend the skin and smoothen it. So just so I don't get distracted by the textures and everything, I'll just turn off the visibility of my texture layer right here, so we are left with the blurred version of the blurred frequency rather, since Photoshop, since what we did here was to separate image into frequency, which is the high and the low frequency. That's what frequency separation does. And so I just turned off the texture layer, so we are left with the color layer, right? So now this is how far we've gone, so we can just hit our before and after, and our before and after. I see we've done a lot with this image, and it's actually at a good pace, and we're going gradually, right? Alright, so that's really it for the most part, guys. At this point, I would like to say that if you're new to this channel and you like what you see, please consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so you get videos for every time I post. I tend to post one video every week. So All right, so these are before and these are after. These are before and these are after. You can tell that we've gone a great deal with this image right here. So let's just close our frequency separation folder. Let's name this FS, as if to say frequency separation, right? So now what we are further going to do is we are going to be going in with our dodge and burn. All right, so that's our dodge and burn. So just zoom into this image again, just a tiny bit, but for this time we will be using the brush tool right here. So we'll reduce our hardness to 0, and our brush size we can just be changing them according to the parts where we are working on. So we'll just leave that right there. So our opacity is 100, and our flow we are going to take it down to 2. Yeah, so we just keep loading it gradually till we think we're okay with it, right? So now we are going to come and take the bridge of the nose. We burn the bridge of the nose, we dodge that. So basically what we do here in dodge and burn is really we dodge the highlights and we burn the contours. Yeah, that's like a very simple explanation to this, right? So for the makeup artists, they just call it highlighting and contouring. So basically we are highlighting the highlighted areas and then we are contouring the contoured area, right? Basically that's it. So we are dodging the highlights and then we are burning the contour. So right now we are actually dodging and then we are dodging the highlighted areas, right? So alright, so these are before and these are after. These are before and these are after. Alright, so what I like to do here is I would hold Alt and then click on the mask to load whatever it is that we have actually painted into the image. Right now, once this is done, I come to filter, I come to blur, and then I go to Gaussian blur, and then I'll further blur the edges. You can see it's smoothing out here, so the edges are not as sharp as they used to be. So I'll just hit OK. Right, then I'll hold Alt again and click on the mask. These are before and these are after. These are before and these are after. It seems a lot more softer, right? So let's come to our burn, and like I said, we'll be burning the contoured areas here. So and then the side of the nose, basically we'll be burning that. Alright, so now do this. Alright, so these are before and these after burning. So like I said, I like to still hold Alt and click on the mask to reveal our selection, everything we've painted in, and then come to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur. And this time, since it's not so much, we'll just reduce it a little bit to like say 18 and hit OK, and then you hold Alt again to click to reveal your image. Now this is before dodge and burn, this is after dodge and burn. You can see how it helped to further define the face, right? This is before dodge and burn and this is after dodge and burn. Alright, so what we are going to further do here is to color grade this image, right? So now let's come to our levels adjustment right here. You can get it from here, or you can just come here and then you get levels, right? So just hit OK. It's pretty much the same thing. I just keep it here so it makes my work easier for me, really, and that's why it's there. So I'll pull in my blacks just so we add a little bit of contrast to the image, right? And then I'll pull out my white to give the image that shine, that sweet shine, right? So I'll come to our color balance. Like I said, it's pretty much the same thing. You can get it from here, or you can just come here and then you get say, where is it, color balance, right? It's pretty much the same thing. So I'll add a little bit of blues to this image. Alright, so +8 is fine. And then I'll add a little bit of cyan to this image, just so it helps to pop out that background, and then we make them stand differently from the image, right? So say 14 is fine. So now for the eyes, I would come to my black and white adjustment layer and then click that, and then hit Ctrl I to invert it. Now I'll zoom into the image a little bit, then I'll go back to my brush tool here, and I'll increase the flow to like say 30, 34, whatever. Okay, let's just do 30. Now if we're using 30, we'll just, with our left and right bracket keys, like I said, you can just paint into the eyes with white as our foreground color, as white reveals and black hides. So since we have inverted the image, it's like we're hiding it. That's why the mask here is black. Now if you look at the mask, the part we've painted with white as our foreground color is being revealed in here, right? That's to say here is actually being revealed. Do you understand? All right, so that is it really. So this is before and this is after. Before this after, I get that subtle change, right? And it's totally fine. So basically you can equally use that for the teeth, but for this part the teeth is mostly covered because her lip is close to itself, so I really won't be needing this as much. So basically I'll just come to, I'll highlight all of them and hit Ctrl G to put them in a group, and here I can further rename this adjustment, right? Just so everything is being tidied, and then you can actually see in groups everything we've done to this image. First, we started with this is before frequency separation, this is after frequency separation, and this is after dodging and burning, and this is after our adjustment layer. You can tell that this image has been dealt with a great deal, and this is basically what we want. I don't like to go overboard with this. Like I say, take your time with this process and see how you can actually maximize every detail you have in the image, right? So basically what I will do here is I'll hit Ctrl Shift Alternate E to, yeah, I'll create a stamp visible layer, and hit Ctrl Shift A to actually go to camera raw. Now that we are in camera raw, what I'll do is I'll reduce the saturation a little bit, just a tiny bit, because I actually like the way my image is looking. So I'll increase the vibrance a little bit. Alright, so the haze, I'll take it up a little bit too. So this image is actually sharp, so I won't be using my clarity slider, so I'll just hit okay, I think these are before and these after. These are before and this is after, and we've actually done a lot to this image really. So